Hi guys, this video will be going through the notes section for displaying and interpreting categorical data. So much of this section will be revision for some of you, but most of us might need a bit of a reminder. So just working through the couple of examples here and giving you some pointers. Remember, with categorical data, we're talking about a single set, so univariate data. There's two main ways that we need to be able to represent that data. And the first one is frequency tables. So a frequency table is a way to take the categorical data from its raw form and putting it into a count. Most often though, we also convert that to a percentage. So we're looking at what percentage of the whole sample or survey recorded particular answers. So as simple as with the example one here, we've got 12 people were asked their favourite colour, and we want to organise those results into both raw frequencies, so the count, and then also the percentage frequencies, giving your answer to the nearest whole number. So make sure you always take note of what level of accuracy as well. And so here we're simply counting. So I can see from the results there, I've got 3 red, I've got 3 green, I've got 4 yellow, and 2 blue responses. And so now to get our percentages, just a reminder, your percentage here will be the number you are looking at, so 3 out of the total times 100. So 3 divided by 12 times 100 gives us 25%. Again, green, we've got 3, so 25%. Yellow, 4 over 12 times 100, we get 33.3, but we want to the whole number, so 33%. And finally, 2 out of 12 gives us 16.77 recurring, so 17% there. Should add up to 100. When you have rounded though, just be aware sometimes you'll get 99, you'll get 101. As long as you're not too far off that 100 mark, you're on the right track. If you've got 110, you need to go back and check your calculations to make sure you haven't made an error in there. So from our frequency table, we then move into displaying that information as a bar chart. So a couple of pointers here and a couple of things to remember. So with your bar chart, it's important to know this is the only graph that we need to know about for categorical data. The key features of our bar chart is we have our frequency on our vertical axis, and we have what is the main variable on our horizontal axis or our x-axis. Really, really important that you show a gap between each of the bars. Okay, they shouldn't be touching. They need to have gaps between, because that represents that you are looking at different categories or different responses. Okay, and just a reminder, you when you're reading it off, so if I look at northwest here at the very right hand side, if I look at how high up that bar is and come across, I can see it's at approximately 40.1 frequency there. Okay, oh, sorry, 41. I'm not reading that correctly. 41. Some other things to note. Please use a ruler when you're drawing them. We want nice, neat bar charts. It's not often that you would have to draw one in an exam setting, but you may have to in SACS. So just always have a ruler to help you with that. So as I said, it's not often you're asked to draw a bar chart, but what you will definitely have to do is comment on a set of categorical data. Okay, so you need to know how to interpret a bar chart. The things that we're looking for, the key feature that we're looking for in a bar chart is the mode. Okay, so quick reminder, a mode is what is the most frequent category. So what's the most popular response? If we were comparing two sets of responses for a set of categorical variable, we would be looking at comparing the most popular, the mode of those two sets. And we'll talk more about that later on in the topic. What we should do is then, once we've identified what's the most popular response, look to comment on how that compares to the other responses. Okay, so if we look at the example here, you have a nice little template here. This is really super detailed. It's unlikely you're going to be asked to comment to that level for a bar chart, but we've put it in the notes so that you have it just in case to refer to. More likely, you're going to get something like example 2 here, where we've got 14 people were surveyed on how they get to work, and the results are shown in the bar chart. And we're asking you to comment on that. So note here, the overall variable is we're looking at mode of transport to work, and the particular categories within that, or the options for response, were car, train, and bike. And so we can see from the bar chart that car was the most popular response, or was the mode, with 7 of the 14 respondents choosing that. This was followed by train with 5 responses and bike with 2 responses. Okay, and I've just written out an example of that response there. Looking at example 3, so going back to our previous page where we had the colours and the percentage frequencies there, if we were to construct our own bar chart on that, what we need to do, remember those key things. You are drawing a separate column for each of those categories, and we have space in between those categories. Now, you would be using a ruler. I can't use a ruler on my screen, so I'll do my best to draw nice and neatly. And what we need to make sure we're taking note of is that along our vertical axis, our y-axis here, that we are actually showing our percentage frequency there. So make sure you've got your graphs nicely labelled. And then what we're going to do, so if I draw in my red at 25 and be absolutely as accurate as you can, we will always give you a nice grid to work off. And it's good just to shade in that column too so that we can see it nice and clearly. We will also have 25% for our green, drawing across. Now your column should be the same width. Okay, because technically the area of those columns is what's giving you the frequency. We're getting really technical about it. Okay, but just try and make sure they're nice and evenly spaced and you're doing the same width each time, not fat ones and then skinny ones. It's just a little difficult on this printout for me to do it accurately. So I know that you guys can do it a lot better than I am. Okay, so I've got my 33 and blue 17. I'll go there. Okay, so now that I've got my bar chart, I want to now comment on it. So I'm just filling the gaps this time. I've got the template sort of set out for myself. And so here, if we were to comment on this, our how many people were surveyed? If we go back to the original, we can see that there were 12 people were surveyed on their favourite colour out of, and the options were red, green, yellow, and blue. From the bar chart, we can see the most popular colour was, of course, yellow for those of us in Athelston, being selected 33% of respondents. Of the remaining respondents, we had 25% select green and red respectively, and 16.7% selected blue. So there's just an example there of how we would construct that bar chart, but then also picking up those key things each time. Okay, the final type of bar chart that we looked at are called segmented bar charts, or stacked. And so we usually use these when we're comparing two different sets of responses. Okay, so if we asked everyone in year 10 what their favourite colour was, and then we asked everyone in year 11 what their favourite colour was, and wanted to compare the responses year 10 versus year 11, we would stack those responses from year 10 into a stacked or a segmented bar chart. And we would do the same for year 11 and put them side by side. So we will look at that a bit later on this term, towards the end of univariate data, or at the start of bivariate data. But for now, just a quick refresh of how we would construct that. So first off, using example 1, which was our colours, our favourite colours example. And so we want to make sure that we are labeling our axes. So here I'm going to have favorite color along the horizontal axis, and I'm going to put my percentage frequency along my vertical axis there. And I need to label my axes as well in terms of my scale. So if I'm starting at 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100% all up. Now, I know every single time that I do a percentage frequency here, I'm going to have 100% all up. So I can start by drawing my outside, my sort of total. And then what I'm going to do is break up in the middle there the sections to represent each of the colours. So you will remember, or you can turn back and see that we had 25% of the people said red. So we can draw in this bottom section, and we might like to grab our red pen and shade in there. What's going to be important though is that we have a key off to the side. And so I'll fill in these colours as we go. But we had red, green, yellow, and blue. Okay, so then the next section, we had green also with 25. So we're already at 25, it takes that now up to 50 in total. And that was our green. Let's fill in my key. My yellow section, 33. So I'm at 50 plus another 33 would take me up to 83. So be as accurate as you can and draw that in. And then again, I'll shade that. And then finally, what should be left over is this 17% for blue. And so you do just check from the top down, do I have 17 left? Yes, I do. And I'll shade that in. Okay, so there's my stacked or my segmented bar chart. So same information, but now it's all sitting in one column together rather than the 4 separate ones. And so now if we look, we're doing it now for example 2, which was the modes of transport, okay, train, car, and bike. So again, we label our axes, mode of transport. We're going to label our vertical axis, our percentage frequency. And we know that all up, we're going to have 100%, so we can draw our master column in. Need to label my scale. And if we hadn't already, we do need to calculate those values as a percentage. So again, we had car, we had 14 respondents in total. 7 of them said car, so that's 50%. Our train, we had 5 respondents out of the 14. That gives us 36%. And finally, we had bike with 2 respondents, so that was 14%. Okay, so same thing again. I start from the bottom, work my way up. It doesn't actually matter which order you do these in, as long as you have the right size matching the right category and that you show that with that key. So car at 50% brings me up here, and I'll pick up a colour for car, shade in my key. I then had 36% for train, so from 50, another 36, keep moving up, gives me to 86. And shade that in. And finally, I should have left at the top 14%, and I do just check that and say, yep, so bike is that black category, 14%. So that is an overview of the types of ways that we have to represent our categorical data. So frequency table and then our bar charts are the main ones. Good to go back and have a quick reminder about how to do those, and the exercise 1.B on EdRollo will give you some practice there. If you feel pretty confident with how to do this, you don't need to do all the repetition in the first few questions. Okay, but if you do need that extra practice, if this is something you haven't done for quite some time or you've always found a little tricky, then make sure you're doing those extra questions there. All right, good luck.